that in this story there's a big whale and it's got to do with being in the sea. So we're going to find out what happened to Prophet Yunus A.S. in this story. Shall we begin? Nod your heads if you're ready. I can see you, which is great. Okay, so Yunus A.S. The Prophet Yunus A.S. was sent to a shameless people who didn't believe in Allah. Can you imagine that? They didn't believe in Allah like we do. He tried to tell them about Allah, but they wouldn't listen at all. So Yunus A.S. got upset and he went away. After he had left, the skies went red and started to look like they were on fire. The people got scared and thought that Allah must be real and he must be angry with them. So they all went to the mountain and prayed to Allah not to be angry. It was magnificent. Allah was happy with them. He made the sky normal again and gave them blessings. Now, the people wished Yunus A.S. hadn't gone away. They wanted him to come back so he could teach them more about Allah. So now they believe in Allah, but now they don't have the Prophet to tell them what to do and how they can, what Allah wants them to do and all the things that prophets normally tell people. But Yunus A.S. couldn't come back just yet because he was on a ship. Put your hands up if you've ever been on a ship or a ferry going across the water. Yes, I was on one just the other day. It was a dark night and there was a big bad storm. So it was very dark. There was lots of thunder and lightning and rain and wind. It was very, very stormy and it was very, very dark. The people on the ship had to throw off all their things to make the ship lighter. Okay, but it wasn't enough. They decided that they had to throw off one man too. They didn't want it to be Yunus A.S., but his name kept coming up, like when you do eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Yunus A.S. realized that it must be Allah who is making this happen. He thought that maybe Allah isn't happy with him for leaving his people. So he jumped into the sea, and just then he was swallowed by a huge, great whale. And look at that beautiful whale in that picture. It's so big. And he was swallowed by that whale. Whales are as big as houses. Can you imagine? Think about the building that you're in. Whales are as big as that, yes. And they're at the deep down in the sea, but they're very, very, very big creatures. So Yunus A.S. was alive in there and he started praying to Allah. He said the same dua over and over again. The words he was saying to Allah meant, there is no one who should be worshipped except you. There is absolutely not a thing wrong with you. I am the one who has done wrong. And I think we all know this dua because this is one of my favorite duas. And I say it a lot, all the time, whenever I'm feeling worried about something. So Yunus A.S. was in a whale like that. And obviously, he was very worried. He was thinking, how am I going to get out? And he said this dua, which tells me that whenever we are worried about something, we should do this dua as well. And you know the dua because I'm sure you've heard it before. It goes like this. La ilaha illa anta subhanaka inni kuntu minaz zalimin. Do you know that dua? Yes? Great. If you don't know it, then maybe you can learn it after today. You've heard the story and you've heard when Yunus A.S. used it. So, all creatures in the sea heard this and came near the whale and they started saying the same words. So all the creatures in the sea were saying the same dua. Can you type into the chat if you know any other creatures that live in the sea? For example, octopus. And which other creatures live in the sea? Let's see. Crab, yes. Crab came along. And fish came, jellyfish, turtle, shark. Well done. Dolphins. Subhanallah. Starfish. Can you imagine? They were all coming. All the creatures came next to the whale where Yunus A.S. was, and they said the same words of this dua with him. Goldfish, yes. So are we all imagining this? Can you all imagine? Close your eyes and imagine all these beautiful creatures in the sea. And imagine this big whale and Yunus alayhi salam inside the whale, and they were all making the same dua. The whale was a bit scared because it realized it had swallowed a prophet. But it felt okay because Allah had told it to do that. Allah heard the lovely words of Yunus alayhi salam. He heard his du'as and he knew that he felt sorry. So he told the whale to take him out onto a nice warm island. The sun on the island hurt Yunus alayhi salam because he wasn't well. So Allah gave him shade and he forgave him. Allah told Yunus alayhi salam that he forgave him just because he had prayed so much, just because he had made that dua inside his heart, believing that Allah would help him. And he prayed and prayed and prayed, and that's why Allah helped him. So when he was inside the whale, he didn't start throwing things at the whale to make it open his mouth. He didn't try to light a fire so that the whale would open his mouth and he could get out. He didn't try to hit the whale. You know, he didn't do all these things. All he did was he trusted in Allah. He trusted that Allah is going to help him get out of the whale. And he just made dua, dua, dua. And that's what helped him, because Allah said that's why Allah helped him, because he prayed so much. So Yunus alayhi salam got better and went back to his people. Remember, the people were waiting for him. They wanted to learn about Allah now, didn't they? So he went back to his people and he was happy to see that they all believed in Allah now, and they all prayed together to thank Allah, and they lived happily. Alhamdulillah. What a lovely story.